Well, this leads this morning. The state in the Senzo Meyiwa trial is expected to argue in the High Court in Pretoria why it should be allowed to ask the third witness, Tumelo Madlala, to point out the intruder who allegedly attacked Meyiwa among the 5 suspects in court. Yesterday, Madlala testified that he recognized one of the intruders, which prompted him to ask for a break during his testimony on Tuesday. Madlala was Meyiwa's close friend and was one of those in the Vosloorus family home of his then-girlfriend Kelly Khumalo when he was shot and killed back in 2014. The defense has since objected to the question. But our reporter Chriselda Lewis is standing by with the latest. Chriselda, a big testimony that we heard yesterday from Tumelo Madlala. Do we see the intruder being pointed out today, and perhaps a few highlights that stand out for you from yesterday?
Well, Naleli, that's certainly what we're looking to this morning, whether the state will succeed in having Tumelo Madlala point out who he says was one of the suspects that was inside the house at the time that Senzo Meyiwa was killed. As you correctly point out, on Tuesday he had asked for a break because he said that he was feeling some discomfort as a result of being in the same courtroom as one of those people that was inside the house on the day that Senzo Meyiwa was killed. So you would have heard yesterday that the defense had basically felt that it was being ambushed. It said that this should not be allowed because Madlala had not been brought before any of the 5 suspects that are, or the 5 accused that are currently in court in an official or a formal identity parade. You would recall that when Madlala testified, he indicated that one of the suspects who had come inside the house, the first one, in fact, intruder, had dreadlocks and was wearing a hat, and pointed again to a second suspect when he was trying to get out of the house through the kitchen door, where he said he saw Senzo Meyiwa had been pinning that second intruder against the wall. So we're expecting the defense this morning to argue why this should not happen, and the basis for that, we're expecting them to advance that Madlala was never brought before a formal identity parade in front of any of the 5 accused that are currently before court. Let's take a listen to when the state prosecutor, Advocate George Baloy, had asked Madlala this question.
The state asked you whether are you in the position to identify any of the suspects before court?
Kulaba phambi kwenkantolo ke uyakwazi ke noma yakhona ke ukuthi ke uchaze ukhombe noma identify ke kulaba abaphambi kwenkantolo manje.
If bengimele ngichaze kwayizolo bengizochaza na izolo bengifuna ukuchaza na izolo.
Even if I was allowed to mention it yesterday or to say it yesterday, I was even prepared yesterday to say it.
Yes, say
it. This is why ngicelile break ngaphumela ngaphandle. Bengiyanisa ukuba sendlini eyodwa nomuntu lo.
Hence I requested, can I just finish, Mr. One? Hence I requested that break yesterday, my lord, because what annoyed me yesterday was to be in the same room as that person.
Well, Naledi, we also saw Madlala give further details about what is believed to have happened after Senzo Meyiwa was shot. He says that they'd taken him into his car, which was driven by Kelly Khumalo. He says he was inside that car together with Mthokozisi Twala, as well as Zandi Khumalo, saying that they were taking him to the hospital. They had to fold his legs in order for him to fit inside the car. He went on to describe how heavy Senzo Meyiwa is, saying that he was also given a face cloth, a blue face cloth, by one of the women who was also at the house at the time after that incident, and was told basically to take that cloth and put it on the wound where Meyiwa had sustained that injury. And basically saying when they got to the hospital, a nurse at a later stage came to them showing them an x-ray and broke the news that Senzo Meyiwa was no more. He says twice he went to view Senzo Meyiwa's body, and he had asked his friend why his friend had called him to Johannesburg to come and witness this, because you would recall he had indicated that Meyiwa had sent him some money to come and visit him here in Johannesburg. He says on the second instance, when he went to go and view Meyiwa's body, he was followed by Meyiwa's then girlfriend, Kelly Khumalo, and she had taken off a watch that Meyiwa was wearing. Fast forward again, he says it looks like there also been a scuffle between Meyiwa and Mandisa, I beg your pardon, between Khumalo and Mandisa, who was Senzo Meyiwa's wife, saying that he had seen some hair that had also been on the floor. Fast forward again, from when they left the crime scene again, after they'd gotten back from the hospital, he says they'd gone to the home that Kelly Khumalo had shared with the Senzo Meyiwa in Malbarton. And it is there where he says Kelly Khumalo had refused police entry onto the premises because there had been security at the gate. And all of a sudden, Khumalo, he says, had seen that police had managed to enter the premises, and he says she had instructed that the electricity be switched off. He says then Khumalo was then on a telephone call. He says he does not know with whom, and after that police had just left. He says he feels it was some kind of instruction from who he does not say, because he says he does not know who Khumalo was speaking to. He also says at some point the father of one of the occupants inside the house, you'd recall Longwe Twala, the son of Chico Twala, was also inside the house at the time of the incident. And Madlala basically says Chico Twala had arrived sometime after Senzo Meyiwa had been killed. He is not able to give us dates of when this had happened, but he says when he was asked further questions inside court, he had indicated he'd been in Johannesburg for some 3 days after the incident. It was during that time that an identity parade had been conducted, and they were asked to give descriptions in an identikit. And he basically says that Chico Twala had arrived at this home in Malbarton that Kelly Khumalo had shared with Senzo Meyiwa, and he claims that Twala had basically asked Kelly Khumalo if she does not want to go on a vacation overseas. So a lot of questions being raised at this particular point about what happened then. This is certainly the version of events that Tumelo Madlala is giving, and we're expecting him to come under a closer cross-examination by the defense. You would also recall before proceedings had concluded yesterday, the defense had also asked Madlala to bring his air ticket. You would recall that at the time that he was due to testify, we heard from the state prosecutor that he could not find a flight coming towards this particular province, and he would then arrive in the afternoon of that day, but then would testify the following day. The defense now was asking for that air ticket, and I can only presume at this particular stage that the defense would want to see if indeed Madlala arrived in the province at the time that he said he did. So it's going to be very interesting this morning, but key to that is whether this court will allow for Madlala to point out this person that he says was in the house at the time that Senzo Meyiwa was killed, who would be, according to him, one of the 5 suspects that are currently accused in this matter.
Yeah, Chriselda, I know that over the past few days you have been in contact as well with the Meyiwa family. I mean, how did they feel about the testimony, particularly from Tumelo Madlala, as it's come to light? And do they feel that the family is getting closer to getting the answers they've been wanting since 2014?
Now, Lydia, I can certainly tell you it is way too early for that. On the simple basis that there is generally a hope from the Meyiwas at this particular point that every single one of those individuals that was inside the house when Meyiwa was killed will be called to this court to come and testify. Whether the versions of these individuals will be the same or there'll be certain contradictions, but they're clearly very devastated. I mean, this is the first time that they're hearing anything that has got to do with what happened or is believed to have happened on the day that Senzo Meyiwa was killed. That, at least on the version that Tumelo Madlala is giving at this particular point, they just simply want to get to the truth. They want to know what happened on that day. We are very very far at this particular point from any form of justice, I may presume, because we're yet to hear from many other witnesses that will testify about what they believe took place, where Senzo Meyiwa was declared dead, and many questions, I guess, in cross-examination of Tumelo Madlala by the defense, both for accused 1 to 4 and for accused number 5. This would be Titi Tobane as well as Advocate Zandile Mshololo, in that we're expecting the defense to poke holes in the testimony of Tumelo Madlala, in that you would recall he had also indicated he had only twice participated in any form of identification, and this would be the identikit as well as the identity parade. And it's in that identity parade where he says he could not point out anyone amongst those persons who had been put there as having, he could not identify any of those individuals. So we're really expecting the defense this morning, to object to any pointing out of any of the suspects or the accused currently before court by this accused or this witness number 3, Tumelo Madlala.
Yeah, well, it's going to be a big day at the Pretoria High Court. Chriselda, thank you so much for that update. Chriselda Lewis there, our reporter, speaking to us from outside the North.